With our heroes rejuvenated after being able to make it back into the past, Goku, who's now learned about the Mafuba technique as a way to battle against Zamasu and Goku Black, and Vegeta, who's now gone back into the time chamber to train, now head back into the future in order to help save Trunks from the impending doom that awaits him as our heroes try once again to put an end to Zamasu and Goku Black. What's going on, Dragon Ball Super fans? Welcome to my Dragon Ball Super episode 63 review entitled Do Not Disgrace The Saiyan Cells. The curtain of Vegeta's fierce battle rises as we head towards Dragon Ball Super episode 64, and what an episode this was. Now again guys, keep in mind this video will contain massive amounts of spoilers, so if you guys don't want anything ruined for you, simply fast forward the video, go watch the episode, come back so we can talk more Dragon Ball Super down in the comments. Don't cry in the comments about being spoiled by the thumbnail or any of that, because nothing is being said or shown that you guys don't already know. Also be sure to check out the description down below for lots of goodies, updates, and contact information to where we can interact on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That way we can talk more Dragon Ball Super. And again, quick plugs before we begin. If you guys are new to this channel, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button for all latest in Dragon Ball news, updates, What If Battles, Xenoverse 2, and much more. Daily uploads and daily content for you all to watch and enjoy. So I thank you so much for supporting the channel greatly, as I always do. Be sure to spread the word about Unreal ENT Gaming. The translations were provided by Herms98 on Twitter, just in case you guys are wondering how I was able to pick up on the dialogue prior to the subs coming out. And with that being said, on to the episode now. The time has finally come to where Goku and Vegeta now have to go back into the future yet again to confront Goku Black and Zamasu, as Trunks is able to hold them off momentarily, of course, and lead them away from the city, in which case we see Goku, who's learned the Mafuba, and Vegeta, who's gone back into the chamber to train. Now they go back into the future. Now again, this episode starts off pretty good as we get to see the ultimate confrontation go down between Zamasu, Goku Black, and Trunks, to where we start off with Bulma putting in fuel inside the time machine, and we pan over to Kami's lookout, to where Vegeta completely destroys the hyperbolic time chamber, because as we see him emerge from the time chamber, we see steam coming off of him and whatnot. So obviously enough, he's been doing some training in there. For how long is quite unknown. I can't really say he's been in there for an entire day, perhaps maybe half a day, but we see Vegeta emerge. He bursts right through everything, and we see him fly off. We see Goku taking the Mafuba containment wave from Master Roshi's house, and he leaves, and we see how everyone's in preparation of leaving and going out there to pretty much go back into the future to fight off Zamasu and Black. And we get to see how future Trunks is down underground. He's recuperating, and even future Trunks is worried that Yajirobe actually was being, portrayed in his image as Mai for a second, because he opened up his eyes and he thought it was Mai, but actually it was Yajirobe. So we see how future Trunks is recovering from his wounds. He has his entire body wrapped up in bandages in a way, and we get to see how Trunks asks where Mai is, and Yajirobe says that she went off to Black's hideout. So that's actually quite interesting, because Zamasu and Black have somewhat of a hideout going on, and we see them yet again, conversating, drinking tea in the middle of the night. So it actually strikes me as a little odd to see that, because we see how Zamasu and Goku Black are casually just drinking tea and talking about the arrival of Goku and Vegeta once they come back, and we see how Mai shows up with a couple of resistance warriors. And again, you have to ask yourself, like, what could they really do in a situation like this? Like, guns won't really help her. So we see her, she's trying to plan out some sort of like a strategic attack against Black and Zamasu with sniper rifles and stuff, like on some serious Battlefield 1 Call of Duty stuff. But we see how once Trunks overhears that Mai wants to go to Black's hideout, he quickly goes on ahead to pretty much put his clothes on. Despite being hurt, despite everything that's happened, we see how he flies off to try to go find her, and she's wielding somewhat of like a bullet, and she's hoping enough that it'll actually do some sort of justice against these two. And we see how Black and Zamasu are beginning to conversate about their strategic attack against Goku and Vegeta, and we see how Mai is like steadily aiming her sniper, and Mai got a super duper energy bullet, in which case we see her shoot Goku Black in the head. Like, that was like on some crazy stuff, because as quickly as it came, she put the super duper energy bullet, as she called it, inside of the sniper rifle, and she fired, and after she fired, she struck Black right in the head, so she got an insta headshot. But of course Black stood right back up. He was pissed, but we see how Black said, if I beat Goku next time, my power will be at its maximum. So obviously enough, Black Black is hinting that he wants to go on ahead and finally destroy Son Goku, because if he were to do that, his power would actually reach its pinnacle. So we don't really know if he's actually planning on doing that, but after Black stood up, we saw how he unleashed some sort of a blast in Mai's direction after she fired off the sniper, and lo and behold, we all thought that she was going to die, but of course Trunks stepped in and he deflected the blast. So Trunks made the save yet again, and we see how Black is standing like right by the edge of the hideout alongside Zamasu, and like they obviously know that, you know, Trunks was the one that deflected the blast, but these two don't really care about Trunks. You can clearly see that in the episode, because despite how strong Trunks is, they don't care about him. They really don't care about him. So, and as quickly as Trunks actually, you know, went on ahead to save Mai from the destruction of Zamasu and Black, we notice how Trunks powers up, and yet again he collides against Black. Black transforms into a Super Saiyan Rose, and once again we see them collide, and we see how Trunks is using his sword to fend off against Goku Black, but Goku Black doesn't seem to have any sort of like weak point at this point, because we see how he kicks Trunks right into the mountain, and he uses, you know, his blade to his advantage as he's trying to cut Trunks in half. And Trunks is utilizing his sword, I think, in a very good way, because we see how Trunks is trying to fend off against Black using his sword, and of course he catches Black really good in the stomach, in which case we see how Trunks powers up, and after he powers up, we see Trunks using the Gallic Gun, which is so cool to see Trunks actually utilizing his father's moves. So let's go ahead and look at the rundown real fast. Trunks is able to use the Masenko, he uses the Final Flash, and of course he's using the Gallic Gun. And we see how the Gallic Gun pushes Goku Black really deep into the forest, even right through the trees, as the Gallic Gun really pushes Black like towards like the edge of like the entire like terrain, because we see how everything is being destroyed. And Trunks' Gallic Gun at this point is so strong, literally it engulfs the entire field as it pushes Black into a mountain. I would have to say like somewhat like near a volcano. And we see how Black is in the rubble, he's steaming, and Trunks is overseeing it just to make sure if, you know, Black is dead. But obviously Trunks is really exhausted because that Gallic Gun really took a lot out of him. And of course he tries to settle down, but Black emerges once again, kind of like seemingly impressed in a way, but in essence he's not, because as Trunks, you know, kind of like goes down, he notices that Zamasu is right behind him. So, you know, Trunks is like talking to Zamasu, and Trunks says to Zamasu, now all I have to defeat is you. And Trunks throws his sword, you know, as somewhat as like of a bluff prior to that, but Zamasu begins to laugh at Trunks as he says, you'll be next. Somewhat of like a Bill Goldberg type thing. It's like he's next, and he's just like, Zamasu's laughing at him. So, and as quickly as he spotted him, we see how Zamasu engages against Trunks, and Zamasu, again, it's hard to believe that, you know, he's that strong, because I don't think he quite is, but he is able to be really resistant, because we see how he takes, you know, Mai's shotgun to the stomach. We see how he's able to take, you know, several of Trunks' punches to the gut, to the face with ease, and Trunks plans to gamble, you know, all of his power and actually risk it in one final attack to try to see if he can lure Zamasu away, because at this point, while Zamasu is fighting Trunks, you know, Black is nowhere to be seen. But of course you have to give props to Trunks. I have to give props to Trunks for actually being able to hold his own against Zamasu here, because in an essence we also see how Trunks somewhat uses like a final explosion type attack in a way, because we saw how, you know, he was trying to concentrate all his energy into something, but again we see how Goku Black comes up from behind him and he stabs Trunks right from behind. So Trunks goes down yet again, smacking a few buildings, and, you know, just as Trunks was trying to, you know, risk it all and trying to destroy Zamasu like the best way he could, you know, we see how Black instantly stabs him and Trunks falls down. But just as fast as that happened, actually, we see how Goku and Vegeta arrive. And Trunks seems to be really happy about this, because finally he sees that, you know, they have arrived. And once Vegeta emerges from this time machine, he is pissed and he goes on the offensive, which again is really cool because he came out the time chamber and now he's stronger, obviously enough, than he was before. But once he notices Trunks on the ground, you know, he begins to just really be infuriated. And we see how Bulma is also there with him. So we see how the cavalry's here, and you know, Bulma, you know, thinks that Trunks is still just barely alive, but we also notice how Goku and Vegeta are instantly staring them down. But also, just as quickly as they came there, Black destroys the time machine. Black does not want them to leave ever again. And you know, we see how Zamasu is overlooking this, and we see how Bulma says, you know, then why don't you just go help him? And Vegeta says because they're here, and you know, they can't really help Trunks out now because the people that are standing in their way, obviously enough, are Black and Zamasu. So Vegeta begins to arrogantly smile at Zamasu, and Zamasu pretty much blows up the time machine, and he says, this arrow will be your grave, and Vegeta says, no, it'll be your graves. And we see how, obviously enough, Vegeta is very confident in trying to destroy them, and he talks to Goku about coming up with a strategy to take, you know, individual people on. And we see Goku's like trying to like raise his hands up like in the form of like the spirit bomb or something. So obviously enough, even while Black and Zamasu are there, you know, Vegeta and Goku are arguing. So, you know, while Zamasu babbles on, Vegeta asks Goku about the Mafuba jar, and you know, he asked if he actually left it in the time machine, and Goku said yes. So the Mafuba jar was inside the time machine, being dumb enough to leave it in there. But then out of nowhere, Gowasu shows up. Gowasu shows up with the Supreme Kai, and Gowasu pretty much is in shock that Zamasu's been doing this. Zamasu's shocked that Gowasu's even there, and we see how, you know, like there's lots of tension as Gowasu bestows upon Black, and the Gowasu from the main timeline comes via the time rings, and he's heard about the whole story with by Beerus, actually, and we see how Black begins to brag about having to kill him in the timeline and stuff. So there's a lot of tension going on here because now we have the Supreme Kai here. There's a lot of stuff that's happening right now that's really, really, you know, captivating both the sides of Zamasu and Gowasu, because Gowasu, he's actually quite shocked that this is happening, and we see how Goku and Vegeta are also shocked, and Gowasu chews out future Zamasu, and Goku corrects him by saying, your pupil is the other one, meaning Black. And Gowasu begins talking to Black because, you know, Gowasu is saying that, you know, because he got a little mixed up by, you know, both Zamasus and whatnot. So they're obviously trying to correct Gowasu into telling him who's who and what's really going on. And even while that happened, we see how Black is like, goodbye, and they try to kill Gowasu right there. But of course, obviously enough, thank God, Vegeta and Goku stepped in the way and they took the blast head on. And Goku and Vegeta are beginning to talk to Gowasu and the Supreme Kai, telling them to get out of dodge. And Gowasu wants to use the Super Dragon Balls to revive, you know, all of Black's victims, but Black explains that he already destroyed them, and there's no way that you can bring back the gods. There's no way that you can actually do anything about it because everyone else is missing, everyone else is dead. And something about Whis being an angel until the next god of destruction is selected. So somewhat Whis is like an overseer. He has to have a god of destruction in his presence because he is the overseer in a way, like somewhat of a guardian angel. But even towards the very end, we see how Goku and Vegeta are beginning to confidently talk and trying to plan something out in order to defeat them, because at this point it's like they can't risk having the Kais die, they can't risk having Gowasu die, they can't really risk having anyone else die at this point. So now we see Goku and Vegeta be on the offensive, and they're winning. They're obviously winning in some little small fashion, but obviously enough, Zamasu isn't really that hurt, but Black somewhat is very surprised that Vegeta actually has that kind of power, because surprisingly enough, props to Vegeta, he's holding his own against, you know, Goku Black. And we see how Bulma, you know, she was hiding the entire time, and she uses the one of the capsules that she has to pretty much open up and have like some sort of like a little factory to where she can actually rebuild some stuff. And Goku says to Zamasu, you really are immortal, aren't you? You know, like, you're really taking on all my hits, and you're really, you know, unfazed by it, because every single time Goku does something to Zamasu, he's smiling. And even Zamasu is kind of freaked out to see Black apparently struggle against Vegeta, and Vegeta is not even hesitant at all because Black is surprised on how much stronger he's gotten, until of course we get to the very end where we find out that Zamasu and Black are going to join bodies and commit the fusion technique. So it's very awesome to see how this episode played off. Again, guys, I'll talk more of that in my breakdown review, but let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What are your overall thoughts on the episode? What are your overall thoughts going into next week's episode? And with the upcoming spoilers to come, what are your overall thoughts as to how they can actually defeat this duo, especially when they come together? Let me know your thoughts, guys. Once again, thank you all for watching. If you guys are fans, don't forget to subscribe for more awesome daily content. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to finger that like button. Let me know what you guys think down below. Tune in for more, and I'll be seeing you all in the next video. Take it easy, guys. Peace.